Hello. Hello. I am Alicia Richard, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the ultimate place where I talk about locks and life. However, in today's video, I will be talking about inspiration and motivation, right? So, when it comes to the topic for today, I want to say, girlfriend, reclaim your joy. Reclaim your power and reclaim who you are. Because a lot of times, as women, we are bombarded with our jobs, especially working 9 to 5. We have so many different responsibilities when it comes to children or helping others care for their children. There are things that we have, like a spouse or a significant other, or so many different circumstances that are always in our way. And what I want to encourage you today is to remain focused, and the thing that you should do is to reclaim your joy, because there are so many different things that are trying to claim your joy, right? Your job is a source of your joy, where sometimes you want to be happy, but then a lot of times you get a little bit upset about going to that job, don't you, right? Where it comes to taking care of the day-to-day responsibilities in your life, and sometimes you may feel so overwhelmed, but the thing I want to tell you today is, do not let that steal your joy. A lot of times you may be frustrated about, oh my gosh, your hair, right? Your hair may not be exactly where you want it to be. You may not have the style that you would like to have, but the thing about it is, do not let that steal your joy. And a lot of times, have you noticed, right, that we give so many things so much power? So many things so much power. We let external things determine our internal value. I'll say that one more time. Have you ever felt like you let your external things, your external situations determine your internal value? Now, when I talk about your internal value, I am talking about your happiness. I am talking about your attitude. I am talking about how are you showing up in your life every single day? Are you determining what you are going to be happy about, or are you letting others determine what you are going to be happy about? So let me give you a prime example, right? A lot of times people say, oh my gosh, I will be happy when, or I will be happy when I am in a relationship. I will be happy when I lose the weight. I will be happy when I get that better job, or when I get that promotion. I'll be happier when I get the car that I want, right? There are so many different external factors that you decide that determines your happiness. But from here on out, I want you to make a conscious and deliberate effort that you are not going to let external factors determine your internal values and your internal expectations. So here is how you're going to do it, right? I know, and I'll use my own personal example, that I am a married woman, and I have been married for about 15 years. It'll be 15 years in this year of 2025. With me being married for 15 years, sorry, I know that my husband does not control my happiness. I know that I'm married. I've been married for a long time, but I take full responsibility of my attitude towards him, and my attitude towards life, and my attitude towards my relationship. And here is why: because no man on this earth controls my value of who I am, and they do not, or he does not, control whether I'm happy or not. I control whether I'm happy or not. No one else determines if the environment around me is peaceful. I determine if the environment is peaceful. No one else determines how happy or joyous or free I am. I make that decision that I am free today, regardless of how my coworkers are acting around me. They don't determine my happiness. I determine my happiness. And when you reclaim your joy, when you say that, you know what, I am going to reclaim my power, that's when your life change, because you realize that what others say, what others do, how we talked about those external factors, they do not determine your destiny. So what I want you to do right now is take back control over your life. Here's another thing, right? when it comes to the political climate, we can't control what's going on in the White House. We can't control what's going on in the stock market. I don't even have stocks like that, right? I can't control all of those things that are going on around me. But what I can control is if I am going to eat out this week. What I can control is if I decide that I want to invest in the stock market. What I can control is I may not be able to control the decisions that everybody else make, but a conversation with my children about life and how to face adversity, right? I could begin to teach my children and establish in my home an environment that is conducive for joy, happiness, and wealth. And it doesn't matter what is going on around in the whole wide world. My house, my home is free. Right? So I want you to begin to get that attitude where it doesn't matter what's going on around you. And I know that there are some extreme things, right? Like the time that we had COVID, right? Or it was certain things. And even in that situation, you could find joy. But what I really want you to do is see where you could find joy in your life. Look around you and see where you could go, right? Because sometimes there are places that are a little more peaceful that you may want to go to, maybe to the beach, maybe for a walk. However, you still have to change your mind. And that's where it starts at changing your mindset. There's a quote that Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you change your thoughts, right, instead of always being negative, oh my gosh, I don't like this person, or oh my gosh, my marriage is a mess, or oh my gosh, I don't have enough money. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So now let's say that we do have an abundance of joy. We do have an abundance of peace. We are, right, when it comes to being, we are expressing gratitude in every single way that we could because we made that conscious decision to change. And that's what it's all about, y'all. We have to change. We have to create a community. Although we may not be able to change the world, we could say, you know what? I am going to join my sister. And when I join with my sister, we are going to create businesses. We are going to begin to work together. We are going to make changes, small incremental changes. Don't you know that the changes that occur, it doesn't always start with a big group. It starts with an amount of two people. There's a scripture that says where there is two or three that are gathered, I'll be in the midst, right? So when we're talking about changing our mindset, that comes with how are we going to work together? How are we going to create peace? And if you can't create peace on the outside, then create peace on the inside. Sometimes it may take taking a deep breath. Sometimes it may take walking away. Sometimes it may take being silent. Sometimes it may take going on a fast. Right? Sometimes it may take doing those hard things, because a lot of times, what have you noticed that sometimes every time you get on social media, there are so many different things that are at our fingertips all of the time, right? Social media, we're always constantly being updated on what's going on in someone else's life, who's getting married. We're always updated on who's having a child, who's having a baby shower, right? There's always things that are on our timeline all of the time. We also have at our fingertips who just passed away, especially if we go on Facebook, right? So there's always different things that really draw our energy, and they absorb it and they take it. And sometimes you may be wondering, why am I upset? And it's probably because you have consumed so much until a lot of those things you are unconsciously holding on to, because those are some of the things that you've seen, some of the things that you've heard, and some of the things that you've scrolled on through social media. So what I want to remind you is about the power of taking back control of your life, because the algorithm, if you don't take control of your life, the algorithm will take control of your life, because the algorithm will show you exactly what they want you to see, right? You have no control over what shows up on your timeline. However, though, there's a little line in between there. It continues to show you what you are looking at all of the time. And sometimes it may throw like some random things in there, but it's kind of just based off of your search history as well. However, even with that being said, it's still the algorithm and it's still feeding you information all of the time, right? So, what I want to remind you about the power of fasting, the power of disconnecting so that you could reconnect. Because what happened if you could disconnect for a little while? What would happen if you could disconnect from social media? What would happen if you could disconnect from certain people or certain things? What would happen if you even disconnect from that attitude or disconnect from certain foods? When you disconnect, then you could reconnect. What does reconnect mean? Reconnect means that you could reconnect back to God or whatever your language may be. You are reconnecting back to your true self. You are reconnecting back to your motivated self. You are reconnecting back to the person that you have always wanted to be, but sometimes you have to disconnect so you can reconnect. Okay. So, what I want to share with you today is the importance of reclaiming your power, the importance of reclaiming your joy, the importance of standing in your power and having control over your life and saying, you know what? Today, I am going to make those changes. Because when you decide that you are going to disconnect so that you could reconnect, then you begin to get spiritual downloads. Then you begin to see how your life is changing. When you disconnect so you can reconnect, then you might begin to start working out. You might begin to change your habits. You might decide that you want to have a different hairdo. You might decide that you are going to treat your coworkers differently. You might decide that you are going to approach your marriage or approach those relationships from a different perspective. When you disconnect so you could reconnect, when you are reclaiming your joy, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your peace, now we are creating communities instead of division. Now we are creating peace in our homes instead of division amongst our peers in our relationships and even in our communities. So I challenge you today. What would your life look like if you decided that you wanted to disconnect so you could reconnect? What would your life look like if you decided that you wanted to reclaim your power? What would your life look like today if you decided that you wanted to make small, consistent changes? What would it look like? Okay. So, anyway, that's the end of my episode for today. And I hope that you got something from this. And if you are deciding that you want to reclaim your joy, reclaim your power, and reclaim your peace, leave that in the comments below, girlfriend, because we are on the road to change. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for viewing my video, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.